Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is Ninja Chicken's channel, a channel about knitting and fiber and spinning, anything pretty much to do with the fiber world, and a little bit of homeschooling and homesteading thrown in. I appreciate you being here. It's always wonderful to have you. Thank you for coming back, and thank you if you're a new viewer and you're checking me out. My name's Maria. You can find me on Instagram as ninja.chickens. You can find me on Ravelry as Ninja Chickens. And I live in just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, in the mountains with my husband and 2 kids on a small homestead with some chickens and bees and cats. We have about 25 acres back here, and today I'm coming to you from my rose garden. These roses we found here when we came to this land. When we moved onto this land, there was nothing here except this one flat, muddy area that had been rolled over a bunch by 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers. There were a lot of beer cans, there were burnt mattresses and burnt tires, and it was pretty messy, but the rest other than this maybe half an acre of flat, muddy land, the rest of it was just beautiful woods, old woods. And one spot popped up some roses. And I looked into the history of this land, and it turns out that there was a small cabin in this spot and at the end of the 1800s. And then at some point in the 1970s, someone built what everyone around here says was a mansion. Someone from, I can't remember his name. Someone from New York TV scene came and built a summer home here, and nurtured some of the gardens that were around here. I was told by some of the neighbors that, one person said there was a pool in the living room. Another person said that the home rotated to face the sun. There was all kinds of crazy things about it. And then actually that was built before the 70s. In the late 70s, early 80s, it burnt down. And they just sold the land. Supposedly the woman who owned it at the time drove up from Florida, was driven up in a limo, stepped out in some kind of silk and fur pajamas, signed the papers, then got back in her limo and drove back down. There's some fun stories. I met a few years ago one of the men who lived here as a boy with his father. They had bought the house from someone before it burned down. And he said, yes, there was a pool in the living room. He helped his father to fill it in and cover it up, but it did not turn to face the sun. Either way, there is a rose garden here that came back up as we started tending the land. And I've looked them up. I can't figure out exactly what kind of rose it is. Sorry about that. My mother-in-law just lives up the hill, and she came down to talk, so I had to stop because it's just weird to record this when there's someone watching me. I don't mind talking to myself or talking to the camera, but when someone else is standing around, it just feels weird. Anyway, I was talking about the roses. I did some research on them to try and find out what kind they are, and I couldn't find it exactly, but the smell of them is like the most purest rose smell that I can imagine. It's so deep and so strong and not at all chemical or fake smelling. It's just the most beautiful smell. And from what I can tell from how they're shaped and the rose hips that they put out and stuff, I think they're an old apothecary rose, which is really cool. Even if they're not, that's what I'm going to call them, because that's what they seem like to me. But we have used them. I've used the hips and the petals for medicine. We'll often gather because this whole patch right here will just be covered. I mean, I don't know if you can see them, but there's hundreds of little buds right now. And in really probably within the next week, it's just going to be a big patch of pink. And you can use the petals for food too, and the hips, the rose hips. But we'll take the petals, and it's also almost strawberry season here, so we'll mix the rose petals with the strawberries and make a strawberry rose petal jam, which is delicious. It's so good. Or crystallized rose petals, or rose petal tea, or whatever. It's really tasty. So I wanted to sit by the little rose patch and show it to you today. Let's see. These last few weeks have been really jam-packed. Super busy, but with really good things. Like, everybody in my family has had some kind of major something happen, so there's been a lot of time with family and a lot of time doing many things. Really, really busy. But I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights for you, and I'll start, I think, just with knitting that I've been doing, works in progress and finished objects. And then I'm going to talk a bit about what's been going on around here and going to Maryland Sheep and Wool and a little farm visit that I had, and a few acquisitions. So yeah, we'll just get started with the knitting. I have one finished object. I had started this last time, and it is the scroll work hat by Irina Dmitrieva. And let's see, I really like how it came out. I held, so this is Fern Fibers yarn dyed with indigo and cochineal, and it is kind of a sportish DK weight. It's a little bit thick and thin, and I held it double, so it ended up being almost bulky. And this pattern calls for a worsted, heavy worsted. So by the time it already came down to my ears, when it came down to my ears and I could tell I really need to start shaping the crown, there was still like a repeat and a half left over of this pattern, and I knew it would be really long, and I did not think this would look good as a slouchy hat because the yarn is so thick and stiff. I figured it was just going to stick off the back of the head instead of actually being a nice slouchy hat. So I think I went to row 17 of the pattern instead of row 22, and then it calls for a part of a repeat. I went to row 17 of the pattern and just started the decreases from there, so you don't have as much of the cabling, but I still think it looks really pretty, and it's super squishy. So this is one of the hats that we're giving one of the women who works with Leaf on Mondays at his forest floor school. So I'm really excited about that. We did 2 hats, and then he reminded me that there's an intern there this year who he really wanted to give something to. So we did some indigo dyeing on a silk scarf for her. So we've got those already wrapped up. We're going to wrap this one and give it to her. So yeah, I love the pattern. It was easy to do. Next time I'll do a lighter weight yarn so I can do the whole scroll work. It is supposed to be a slightly slouchy hat, but I thought it was really nice. I have 2 works in progress. One is for the secondhand steek along. This is my second sweater. There are some people who've posted their finished objects and questions and stuff in the Ravelry group, the Ninja Chickens Ravelry group. So if you want to see some of the things that people have cut, then go on over there and take a look. For those of you who haven't heard of it, steeking is when you cut your knitwear to either put in a sleeve or make it a cardigan, even just to cut your socks to put in a heel. So a lot of people don't feel comfortable with that. It's scary to cut through something you've spent all this time knitting. So we're doing what's called a secondhand steek along. You go to your local secondhand store, you try and find a nice wool sweater that you want to cut. It can be super ugly. It doesn't matter. Just something that you're willing to practice on. I was lucky to be able to find 2 nice sweaters. This one I finished cutting, and let's see, this isn't going to open up as well because this is where I'm doing the knitting, but what I've done so far is I took out the collar and I've added the collar in. I picked up all the stitches and did a ribbed collar, and did the same rib, I think it's knit 2 purl 2, down the left side, which will be where the buttons go, and then on the right side I've just picked those stitches up and I'm going to start knitting. I need to decide on how many buttons I want and where to place the buttonholes, but then it's done. It's going to be pretty fast, and I like it. The yarn isn't exactly the same, but it kind of picks up some of the colors from the color work. I'm using Yoth heavy lace weight yarn, her mother, and in the cacao color, and I'm doubling it. I'm holding it double. I tried it single at first and it was just too thin, and I thought it'd probably look better having a little more substantiality to it. So I'm doubling it, and I think it looks good. I think it's going to be a nice cardigan. I'm excited. It's too warm to wear it anymore, but I will have it for next year because this one fits me well. And I did find someone to take the other one. My friend who dyes my hair and cuts everyone's hair, super great hairstylist. She has a little girl who's really good friends with Leaf, so that we're friends all around. She's very petite, and I was telling her about this sweater, and she's like, "Ooh, that sounds nice." And I thought, "Oh, I bet it would look good on you." So I brought it in last week, and she tried it on. It was perfect. She didn't even want me to redo the zipper, which I realized didn't unhook at the bottom. She's like, "I don't ever open them all the way up anyway. It's totally fine like this." So I gave her the sweater, and it fit perfectly. So I'm excited that it found a home. So yeah, that's this one, and I'm hoping to finish that this week. And then my other, let's see, I casted off the hat. I didn't have anything on the needles, and I was about to head on the plane for Maryland sheep and wool, and I didn't have anything to knit. So I just grabbed a ball of yarn and thought I'll just do some vanilla socks all the way up, same color yarn. And I don't know what this is because there was no label on it, but it just looked fun. It's one of the self-striping ones, and it has sparkle in it. It might be opal, but I'm not sure. If you know what it is, let me know. And this is where I'm at so far. I'm doing them 2 at a time on a size 1 or 2.25 needle. And it looks like it's going to be exactly the same, but in opposite directions. So they're meeting here at this little red kind of checkered spot. But I started them both on the toes at the red checkered, except one from the inside of the ball and one's from the outside of the ball, so they're going in backwards direction. So I think they're going to be really cute. I'm doing it 56 stitches, just plain stockinette in the round, and I think it's going to be nice. I think I'm going to use that heel flap adjustment from Knitting Expat again, and a German short row heel. I liked how that fit with my last pair of socks, so I'll probably put those in, and it's all just going to be in this. Simple. I'm liking it this time. It's not feeling fiddly. I think it's because I don't have to worry about the different colors or patterns or whatever. I might just be a vanilla sock kind of girl. We'll see. So as far as what I'm casting on next, I'm actually working on a design for the next Making Stories book. It's going to be called Breeze, and it's coming out in, I think, April of 2018. Right now they're asking for pattern submissions. So I have an idea of what I'm going to do, and I'm working on the swatch and making sure that it all looks right, and then I'll send that in. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm really excited about the pattern idea that I have. And if it doesn't get accepted, that's fine. I'll still put it out. I think it'll be a neat pattern. So I can't show you any of those details, but yeah, I'll probably finish I'm pointing at them. You can't see where I'm pointing. I'll probably finish the sweater, the steek-along sweater, and the socks fairly quickly, so maybe I'll cast something else on this week. Or maybe I'll play with some of the stuff I got from Maryland Sheep and Wool. Yeah, so that's it as far as yarn goes. I'll show you some of the acquisitions and talk a bit about my travels. So let's see. First, I want to tell you a little bit about a couple of things that I got in the past couple of weeks, either that I ordered or trades or whatever. I do fiber share. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's kind of like a fiber swap. A couple times a year. It might be seasonally. Fiber share says, hey, whoever wants to sign up, we're going to do some swaps. And you send a minimum of, I think it's a minimum of 100 grams of yarn or fiber. That's it. It's not a lot, and it can be done internationally or domestically, whatever you choose. But usually people put in a lot of other things. You really get to know the other person. You might stalk them on Instagram and see what they're interested in, and then just send them goodies. And I will often send stuff to people that are all local to me, local design, at least in North Carolina local. So this time I sent out a couple of yarns from North Carolina locals. I sent some local chocolate. I sent some local soap. And then it's fun. You get to know the kind of the people from that area a little bit. And so it's a triangle. I will send to one person and someone else will send to me. So you get to know two people, which is really nice. And a lot of the people I've done this with before, I've become friends with and continued to communicate with. This time I signed up for international and I got matched up with a woman in Canada, Christy, who goes by Rock Paper Brushes, and she's a beautiful artist, and she sent me some amazing things. But the one thing I really wanted to highlight is some of her art. She had two of her paintings made into cards, and I absolutely love them. This one is a sweet little cow who, it makes me think she's getting married or something. She's got her little bouquet on her head. And this one's a chicken. And I love them. I love the little dandelions in the background and the little flowers. It's just, they're so sweet. And I didn't tell her this, but I absolutely love cards because I used to write a lot of pen pals when I was a kid. It kind of faded off in high school a little bit and through college, and now there's just computers, and so we type and text everyone. And I've been really wanting to get back into writing my friends, writing pen pals, especially people around the world. It just makes me feel, I don't know, so much more connected with people around the world. And it makes the world feel like a smaller place. And I know I've talked about this before and how Instagram has done that for me. I have this love-hate relationship with social media, and then I'm on the computer and I'm not outside in nature, and I'm, not focusing on what's immediately around me when I'm on the computer. But I have met some of my closest friends through Instagram over the past, I guess I've almost been on 3 years. And it's just it's brought to me people that I have some of the same intense interests with. And so we just immediately click. And it's been amazing. And so it's the same thing, some of those people I want to write to and be pen pals with. So she sent me these cards, and I just love them. So Christy, thank you. She's Rock Paper Brushes. And yeah, I'm excited. I really like collecting stationery, especially stationery that has livestock or sheep on them. So I wanted to show you those. The other thing that I had purchased and was excitedly, somewhat impatiently waiting for is my first nosepine or nosepine. I looked it up to figure out how it was pronounced, and it sounds like it's both of those. And I've never had one before. I'm kind of impatient when it comes to winding my yarn. I will take my yarn and, put it on the Swift and then go as fast as I can, race myself, see how fast I can do it. Or Leaf and I will have races, and, because I want to get the yarn ready so I can cast on. I'm a person that needs to learn some patience. But I thought, okay, if I'm going to be handwriting letters, if I'm going to be trying to slow down some of my crafting and my life in a little bit, then I would really love one of these. And this woman, her name is Nina, from The Fox and the Sheep, is an amazing carver, and she started carving these nosepine, which, if you don't know, it's a traditional tool, and I'll show you. It's a traditional tool for winding your yarn onto instead of winding around your fingers or using a stick or whatever. She hand carves them, and then she carves an animal or something into the top, and they are, well, let me show you. They are amazing. So this is her barn owl. Isn't that gorgeous? So it's been carved. You can see I wound some of the yarn on it. It's been hand carved. She's got a carved branch and then the owl on top, and then she's painted it. How gorgeous is that? I just can't, I saw this and I was like, this is a hand-me-down. This is something that, when I'm done, my yarn days, I'm going to pass down to my children or my grandchildren. It's just amazing. And the detail work, and how can you not take pride in your work when you're using tools like this? And I'm finding that more and more with these things that I'm creating, that I want to have not just quality tools. You can go out and buy any quality tools, but tools that have a connection for you, meaning and beauty. I mean, this brings, just seeing this sitting in the corner of my, my crafting area brings beauty to my crafting. So I am super excited. And the first so many people who ordered, because as soon as she said I'm opening shop, I was there because I really wanted one of these. It was hard to choose between this and the little fox. There was a little white fox sitting on some a little blue area, and that was really pretty too. But the first so many people who ordered, she also sent a painting. So then she goes and hand paints an owl to go with it. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm gonna have to take this and frame it. I can't tell you how much I love these. They're so pretty. So so thank you, Nina. If you're interested in anything like this, she has fairly frequent updates to her shop, and I think she may have a couple in there right now, but you should go check her out. So beautiful. Merlin's saying hello back there. There's one other acquisition, and I've been thinking more and more about things that I want to do over the summer while we're not schooling and we can be outside more and doing things with the kids, and I really want to get back into doing eco-printing. I was doing more of that in the fall, more eco-printing and natural dyeing on silks and indigo shibori stuff. So one of the things I've really wanted to do, and I had this vision in my head of creating scarves and prints, clothing, however, with moon phases on it. And I thought, well, how can I do that? I mean, I guess I can cut out my own. I'm not really good at it. I tried looking up tools to make those and didn't find anything. And my neighbor is a retired woodworker, and I was mentioning it to him, and like a week later, he came back to me with these. Let me see if I can show you. Here's the moon. So I'll put a picture in, and it goes the other way too, but basically a full, I won't be able to hold it up and show you, a full moon phase from the crescents all the way on both sides, all the way to the center full moon. He gave me 4 of them, 4 sets, because I'll need 2 to press on whatever folded indigo or folded cloth that I'm using before I dunk it in the indigo or put it in another dye bath. You put 1 on each side, and that makes a resist. It basically keeps that area from absorbing any color. So when you open up whatever cloth or whatever you're using, there's a white area that shows the moon phases. I'm so excited to try these out. And the first thing I'm going to do is make one for his wife, because he was thinking that maybe he could buy one from me. I'm like, no, you're not buying one from me. I will make one for you. So we'll see what she wants, if she might want a cloth or a skirt that has it around the bottom or something like that. But I'm hoping to start playing with that in the next week, and I'll definitely take pictures of those. But I just think it's really cool. And I told him, I said, there might be some other people who want these, so if they're easy enough to make. These he did with plywood, and then he and his wife used to live on a boat, so he still had some boat varnish. He put a bunch of coats of boat varnish on here so that it wouldn't swell in the indigo bath. But he was thinking he could also do it out of a nicer solid wood, and then the wood would take on the color over time, or even some type of a hard plastic. Although I like the wood better, I like the natural feel of it. But yeah, so if you're interested, let me know. And if there's enough interest, maybe I can coax him into making some sets of these and just put them up in my Etsy store to sell for him, because I think they're pretty cool. So yes, those are my 3 main acquisitions, not related to Maryland Sheep and Wool. So I'm not going to show you everything I got. I didn't get a ton of stuff from Maryland Sheep and Wool, but some of the yarns and the patterns I got, I'm going to be using. So I'll show those to you as I use them. So it's not like, hey, look at all this stuff I got, because that just feels kind of weird. I want to share these things with you. Absolutely. But I don't want it to be, Maria's look at the stuff I got show. So let's get on to Maryland Sheep and Wool. I had so much fun. I was so exhausted after the weekend. I can't even tell you. But it was a good exhaustion. I had a late flight there. It was postponed a little bit because of the storms, which I'm fine about. If there's turbulence and there's storms, you postpone it as long as you need to, because I don't mind flying, but I'm not a huge fan, and I can have a tendency towards plane sickness. So I was chewing my gum. I was staring at my book. I'd taken a little bit of Dramamine and prepared myself. And it was fine. There was a little turbulence, but it was funny. I don't mind roller coasters. Those don't bother me at all. But being on a plane up in the air, when you go through a cloud and the plane goes, whoo, oh my gosh, I get sick so easily. So it was fine. I warned the man next to me, just so you know, I may need that little bag you've got over there, because there was only one bag in his seat, and he just laughed. But I was fine. Got there and rented a car and then drove to my friend Jessie's house. And I stayed with her for a couple of days, her and her husband. And it was really nice. Jessie's someone that I met on Instagram. And we've gotten to be close friends. And she's just an amazing woman. And it was really fun to stay with her and be able to get to know her better in person. You know, of course, you can have a better chat and sit and just, you know, laugh together. And it was a lot of fun. So we went to Maryland Sheep and Wool together both days, and stayed from, you know, opening to almost closing the first day. The weather wasn't great, and I felt really bad for the vendors, because I know that a lot of people didn't come or didn't stay as long because it was really chilly and pretty windy, and both days it rained off and on. I was watching a thread on Ravelry talking about what the weather was going to be like, so I was prepared. I had a lot of wool. I had my chicken boots with me so that they could get wet, and I had a raincoat and an umbrella, so I was ready for all of that. But it was just, you know, I mean, you guys are probably, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably just as obsessed with either fiber or knitting or spinning or something as I am. So when you go to one of those festivals, it's just like you're surrounded by your peers, your obsessed peers who like it just as much as you do. So, you know, I could spend hours looking at the sheep. I could, you know, have walked 10 times through the same barn looking at all the fiber and, you know, talking to people. And it was just so much fun. And those people of you who came up, I know that it's hard sometimes. I've been a stalker fan before of other people at other festivals where I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to say hi, but you don't know how to. Thank you so much if you came up and said hi. My blue hair stood out a lot, so I think, you know, it just felt, it never felt weird. I always wanted to give you hugs if you came up and took the time to say hello, and that you watched my podcast and introduced yourself, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you. It's nice. It was just really neat to know that there are people who are enjoying what I'm talking about, and also to connect with you. So I appreciate that. And then there was a podcaster meetup. I've never been to one before, so I don't know what they're usually like. This one was small, but really nice. It was super nice to meet all of you, people who I've watched or people who I haven't met yet and didn't know you had podcasts. And now I get to check it out and have, again, a connection with you because I've met you in person. It was really, really sweet. So that was wonderful. I think one of the highlights of being at Maryland Sheep and Wool was seeing the sheepdog demonstration. That was really, really interesting. I got to see kind of the you know, how the coordination works between the shepherd and the dog, whether it was through words, them calling, you know, lay down or whatever, or through whistling, which I thought was really interesting. And I'll put a small video in so you can see some of what was happening. It was really interesting.
Put them right around there, isn't it?
So steady and calm.
These dogs were so excited. There was not at all, it was not at all like, ugh, you know, I don't want to do this. Like they were being forced to do something they didn't want to do. They were so ready to do their job. It was just so cute. They reminded me of this one little dog. She was just standing up. She was looking in the direction of the area where the sheep were going to come. She was just standing there, moving her legs back and forth like, I'm going to take off as soon as they come. Like, she was so excited. It reminded me of, I don't know if any of you remember The Dark Crystal. That was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. There was a little animal in there named Fiskig, and Fiskig would do that. You know, this big fluff with these big eyes, and he'd just go like this with his feet. Totally reminded me of that. And it was just amazing to watch them. They were so excited to work, and the sheep weren't scared of them, but they moved in concert with them, depending on whatever needed to be done. They felt the pressure of the dog on one side, and they'd move. It was really, really interesting. Go on. He's been wanting to be outside this whole time, sneaking around in different areas. And all right, say hi. And then, what are you eating?
Sourwood.
Sourwood? You want to show them your sourwood leaf? Yeah, he's learning about some of the plants. This is sourwood, and it tastes sour. It's kind of like, I don't know, a little citrusy, so he likes to munch on it. Anyway, so let's see. There's just so much happened while I was there. One of the things that was wonderful was meeting Evelyn from the Thistle Hollow podcast. She and I had connected, I don't know, a few months back. And thank you, sweetie. And most recently, I know she has some crochet patterns and some of her own written crochet patterns, and does some custom crochet work. So I had been wanting, I know I've talked about the friend of mine who had a baby very early on. He's now 32 weeks along, gaining weight and doing well. So it's been really exciting. He's been able to wear the hat. He's still not yet able to wear the little cocoon that I made him, because he still has certain wires to check his temperature and make sure that everything's stable, but he's doing well. But one thing I really, really wanted was, there's this pattern that I've seen for an octopus, and it has little curly-Q tentacles. And there's actually been some doctors in hospitals elsewhere who say that kids that have this little octopus in their incubator with them, or in the NICU with them, seem to be doing well, like they're thriving, and they think it's because the tentacle feels kind of like the umbilical cord. So I thought that would be amazing, and I don't crochet, so I asked Evelyn about it, and she's like, absolutely, of course I will make that. So look, isn't he adorable? So as soon as this is done, I'm sending this off, because it'll be there tomorrow if I send it to her, so that he can have it, and then he can put his itty bitty hands around this and kind of feel like he's in the womb again. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Evelyn. So this is going to go to the little boy, and I will see if my friend will take a picture, and if she will and she's okay with it, I'll post it here so you can see. I mean, his little hand would just be so tiny around that. It would be perfect. So this will go with him to the NICU. And then another thing that she brought was, Evelyn makes candles with her mother. So she brought me a candle. It's bergamot, lemon, and lavender, and it's a massage candle. It's made with oils that when it melts, you can use it for your skin, which I absolutely love. So it smells heavenly. I mean, it just looks like a candle, but I haven't lit it yet. I'm excited to. So again, thank you. She has a really nice podcast. Generally, they're shorter episodes, and she talks a lot about learning more about heritage breeds and knitting with conservation yarn, stuff like that. And she also has Lyme's disease, so she talks a lot about that, which, there are a lot more people out there than I've realized who have dealt with that. So it's really interesting to hear what her struggles have been and what she's finding has helped and hasn't helped. So yeah, let's see what else. Okay. I want to show you a couple of things that I purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool, because you just have to see them because they're really cool. The first thing that I purchased wasn't yarn at all. It was this mug. This is from the clay monster. Of course, the outside has little turtles, but this right here is a tongue. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? It's a monster. So I get to take a sip and have a little monster in my mug, and I just love it. And it's big. I like making a lot of tea at one time, so this is super big so I can enjoy it. And she has all kinds of monsters. And she does yarn bowls and goblets and just regular size mugs and stuff.
I thought you were going to say goblins.
Goblins. No, she might have some goblins there too, but goblets and other things. So that's a lot of fun. You should go check her out. I also I really didn't need any more yarn. I have a lot of yarn. But I knew that it would be nice to try to get some fleece or fiber to spin like I'm spinning. Everything I do is knit. Why do I get the fiber? I don't know. But I want to spin it. Maybe I'll do some more spinning this summer. I have to force myself to take a break from the knitting because I want to knit everything. But I also enjoy spinning. So regardless, I wanted things I've never worked with before. Not the standard merino or BFL. Or I wanted some rare fibers that I could experience. So the first thing I got was this from Ross Farm. And it's 3 different shades of Hog Island. Hog Island is very rare. I know that they are working with the breed at Mount Vernon, Washington's home, to try and increase the strength of the breed and work with their fleece and everything. And I spoke with a woman briefly about it who works with the flock there. I don't know a lot about the breed, but I know that they're very rare. When I was working on a design that required a bunch of different conservation breed sheep yarns, that was one that I looked into, and I just couldn't find it anywhere. I could find a little information about the sheep, but I couldn't find yarn. So I thought that would be fun to spin. And the other one, I just got rid of all the fleece out of my closet. I just either finished spinning it last year or gave some of the fleeces away. And I go and get another fleece so I can put it in my closet. But I wanted something, that I couldn't find anywhere else. And I found this one fleece in their fleece barn. There was all kinds of fleece there that you could go through and see what you might want to spin. I found something called the California Red, which is one I've wanted to spin. Another one that I looked at for my fleece flight design. It's another conservation sheep, more endangered. And there was only one, and it was really clean. So I've got it right here. I can show you a little bit of it. It was a really clean fleece, so I wouldn't have to worry so much about vegetable matter. And it has a beautiful crimp to it, and I knew that it'd be easy to clean and looked like it'd be a lot of fun to spin. Okay, if any of you are out there have businesses, this is what really pushed me over the edge. It came with a picture and information about Sheena the sheep. I'll read it to you. Sheena is a 4-year-old registered purebred California Red ewe. Sheena's full name is Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, and she certainly behaves like royalty. Her favorite pastimes are sunbathing, afternoon naps under the elm tree, and listening to banjo music. I was like, oh, I love Sheena. I want her fleece. So this is from Sunrise Haven Farm in Virginia. And then on the back, there's information about the sheep. And so this is what they look like when they're babies. They really do have a very red color to them. And then as they get older, they lose some of that red. Well, they keep it more in the legs and the face, but the fleece becomes more creamy with little flecks of red in it. So, so I'm really excited. It's considered a medium, although this one's pretty soft. It's considered a medium fleece. So, but I mean, there were 4.5 pounds, and I was like, there is no way I will ever get through 4.5 pounds. I just don't spin that much, and I don't spin fast enough. So I thought probably someone on the podcast will want to split it with me. So I was walking around with it, just looking at some of the other fleece in there. And I walked past one of the volunteers who was helping someone find things. And the woman said, I see you have a California Red fleece. I'm really interested in that one. And the volunteer said, well, it was over on the table over there. And I said, actually, I was walking past. I said, actually, excuse me, it's in my hand, but I'll split it with you. And she's like, yes. So we threw it on one of the tables, took a good look at it, just split it right down the middle, and she got half. So now I only have 2¼ pounds of it. And I may still be willing to split it down a little bit. I just want to try some, but I mean, that's a sweater right there. So yeah, I'm excited. That's another thing I want to spin. I'm enjoying learning about different, I've got that fleece right now on my wheel that I don't really know what it is. It's supposed to be Dorper, but it's not Dorper. And then I've got the Hog Island and the California Red, and it's just fun experimenting with the different breeds and learning more about them. Oh, Cookie Dough's saying hi. They love it when I set up out here. They're like, yay, Mom, she's come to play. So yeah, the cats have been having a good old time lately. This is a little bit homesteady right here. We have a pond right back over here, and actually I can see the cat standing over there by the pond, the other ones. And 3 of our 4 cats are definitely hunters. And they love sitting around the pond and chasing the frogs, sometimes catching the frogs. But they also will chase the snakes. And we have black rat snakes, which I don't mind at all. They're not poisonous. They're not aggressive. They keep mice and other snakes in check because they'll eat baby snakes. We also have copperheads. Copperheads are poisonous. And when Kaya was 7 years old, she was bit by a copperhead. We had just put a new screen door on our house, and we're super excited to leave the big glass door open, have the screen door, but the bottom of the screen door didn't have the sweep yet, that keeps bugs out. And we thought, whatever. So a couple bugs get in, some crickets get in. We'll put it on when we have a chance. Well, what got in was a copperhead. We didn't know that it had crawled in to explore a new space, and she was running past the kitchen table and jumped up on the kitchen chair, and it had been sitting under the chair, and it bit her ankle. So now that it's passed and Kaya's fine, I can laugh about it, because what happened later probably would have been funny to watch on a television show. But my husband grabbed her. She said, ow, something bit me. He thought she was he didn't see it because it disappeared. The snake. He thought she was being dramatic because, 7-year-olds can be dramatic. Put her over on a chair and then looked at her ankle and saw there was 2 little marks. So he started flipping out. Called me downstairs because I'd been putting Leaf to bed because he was just barely a year old then. And he flips the couch over and finds a copperhead sitting there. So he takes a bucket and puts it on top of the copperhead for now so we could deal with Kaya. So I started doing what I thought, I think after years of working in emergency herbal medicine and labor and delivery, I'm pretty good at the emergency stuff. So immediately I was like, what do we need to do? Who do we need to call? So I put a bunch of echinacea on her ankle, because echinacea is a traditional medicine, a native medicine for bites and stings. So I poured a bunch of that on there, and I made her drink the rest of it, which to this day she won't drink echinacea because it leaves this tingly flavor in your mouth that almost feels like you have to salivate, or like that feeling after you've had dental work and your feelings starting to come back in your mouth. It's an awful feeling. So she hates it. And then I poured a bunch of activated charcoal on it, which is another thing that helps to draw out toxins. So then I called poison control and I let them know what happened. They said, we're calling the hospital. Let them know you're on your way. And in the meantime, the bucket's moving in our living room. The snake's trying to get out and the bucket's moving around. And my husband's like, what do we do? So he goes and gets the wood axe from outside and lifts up the bucket and starts chopping at the snake, which of course, it's a wood axe. It's sharp, but snakes are tough. And it was in our house, and I feel bad that we killed it, but we needed it out of our house. So he chopped at it a little while, killed it, chopped its head off, put the bucket back on top, and looked at the floor. And we have concrete floors. There was this massive gash in the floor where he made this huge, chopped away basically at the concrete floor, but he was kind of flipping out. So a friend of ours lived on our land. She came over to hang with Leaf while we took Kaya to the hospital. And Toby was smart enough to think, I'm going to take a picture of this snake. So when we got there, he could show the picture to the doctors. They could confirm, yes, that was a copperhead, and they could use the right antivenin if she needed it. So she did, in the end, need it. Copperheads aren't always deadly at all. They can cause a lot of damage, but it's mostly to very young children, compromised people, or to the elderly that it can be deadly. She was strong. It was an adult, luckily, because the adults know how to control their venom enough to just scare you, as opposed to the younger copperheads, which don't know how, and they'll just inject everything in one bite. So she ended up spending 3 days there, and she had been really into Harry Potter, so I was just like, she was so strong. I was amazed at how well she took it. She started joking around about how she could speak parcel tongue now because she was bit by a snake. And at one point she wanted to see the picture. And I asked her, I was like, are you sure? I didn't want her to get scared. She never saw the snake, so I didn't want her to develop this lifetime horrible fear of snakes. So she said, yeah, I really want to see it. We showed her the picture, and she said, oh, it's so beautiful. That was her response, and I almost cried. I just thought, how amazing that she can be, 3 days in the hospital and go through this traumatic event and still think that this animal is beautiful. So it was really neat. But yeah, so needless to say, we've been finding a lot of copperheads around our pond lately. The cats seem to be keeping them in the water. We have some reeds that will come out of the water, and they'll climb up on the reeds to kind of sun themselves and then drop into the water when they're scared. So we've been having to deal with them. I would like to say that I can live in harmony with nature as much as possible, but when there's copperheads near my home, they can't be here. Not after 3 days in the ICU and everything that we went through with Kaya. So, the cats will help scare them away, but I certainly don't want them being bit because that would probably kill them. But we're encouraging the black snakes to be here because they will eat copperhead babies. I don't know where that all started. Oh, I guess the cats being outside. They just hang out around there. So, wow, tangent. Let's see. We were on Maryland sheep and wool. I think I showed you everything that I got there that I was going to talk about right now. After Maryland sheep and wool, well, on the second day, someone just laid an egg. They like to announce it. On the second day of Maryland sheep and wool, I met my friends Amanda and Alberto and their kids there. They came in from Pennsylvania, and they have the Prado de Lana farm. They met me there. We hung out for the day, and then I went back with them to their farm to spend the night and spend the day there the next day. And it was just amazing. This place, beside being really good people, and their kids were just so sweet and always smiling, and they were kind and welcoming. And both at Jesse's house and Amanda and Alberto's house, it was one of those times where I never felt uncomfortable. You just go and you feel like you're one of the family, and you chill out and you relax, and it was just a really wonderful time. But their farm, they have, of course, these acres of pasture and fenced in pasture areas, but within that pasture are old growth maple and oak trees, just massive, beautiful trees. And it's one of those places where I'm like, if this is what I can imagine in my head as the perfect place to have a farm, that's what it would look like. It just, you walk through and you're like, there's probably fairies hopping from tree to tree somewhere. It just felt so beautiful, It makes your heart feel good to be there. And they had 2 babies that were bottle babies right now, and one of them was only a week old. And, their moms, I think both moms had triplets, and these were the ones that were kind of kicked out. And so they weren't being nursed by their moms. And one of them was older and bigger and stronger and steadier and would hang out with his brothers, or I think both brothers. And the other one really was trying to find her place She's the little Casey, the 1 week old, such a sweetheart. So I would feed her whenever she needed her bottle, and she would take a long time. She hadn't really figured it out yet. So I'd just hold her and feed her, and then after she was done and put the bottle down, she'd just fall asleep in my arms, and I was like, oh, I want to take her home. She's so sweet. So I just spent my time playing out on the farm and chatting with Amanda, and one of the things we've been chatting about is the possibility of doing some workshops and retreats out there, which would be amazing. So I don't know how soon it'll be coming up, but we're working on these ideas of some natural dyeing workshops, maybe some mixing in some herbs or some soap making, and I don't know if it'll be an afternoon or 2 days, or maybe some range of things throughout the next couple of years or whatever, but it's really exciting to think about. We are hoping to put something together soon. Come on, Cam. Oh.
This gets nuts. Watch out. Hang on, baby. We got some going here.
But I'm hoping this next episode I can show you a tour of the gardens. Leaf and I have been doing a lot of gardening, putting in a lot of new plants where things have died over the winter, didn't come back as well, putting in lots of herbs. So I can tell you about all of those maybe next week. And I think that's it. Oh my goodness. Wow. Is that all of it? I think that's all of it. Thank you so much for being here. I love coming to you guys every couple of weeks and saying hello and chatting with you guys on Instagram and Ravelry, and it really makes my day. It really makes me feel good, and to know you guys are out there and just to be making friends with new fiber people. So thanks. I hope you guys have a beautiful couple of weeks. I hope you all are doing well. Come on over to Instagram or Ravelry and let me know what you're up to. Maybe share your favorite knit lately or what you've been doing. That would be wonderful. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
If that mockingbird won't sing